Welcome back. It is always a good day when I wake up and I give thanks, and then the realization kind of washes over me that today is a day that I have the great privilege to introduce you to a cool, unique human being. Someone that I have heard about for a long time, but that I just recently was introduced to. My guest is Kevin Allen Lamb, and I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. But first, a couple quick housekeeping things. Last week, I was talking about the top cities that were listening, and there's just so many interesting places on the planet that are tuning in. I'm like, Fargo? Bring it on. But this week, I want to do the countries. So, of course, United States, my number one. Makes sense, right? Canada, right in behind. Australia, great market for me. The UK is growing in strength. France, New Zealand, Ireland, Indonesia, which is brand spanking new, Hungary, and Germany. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The only way that a podcast can grow is by downloads, listens, shares, a tap on the shoulder, picking up the phone and calling your best friend and saying, oh my God, I love this woman's show. She talks about death and she makes it about dinner conversation. So please share it if you love it. Follow me on all the socials. And of course, we have a very fun and active The Next Room Facebook page. And everybody's very kind and gentle there. And there's an awful lot of grief there, but we try to keep it light and more about sort of higher consciousness. Your daily guide to shine. My guest is Kevin Allen Lamb, and I'm going to hold this up for my YouTube fans. Okay, this is Kevin's brand spanking new book. Oh my gosh. There will be a link, so you don't have to go searching for it. Just do yourself a favor, click on the link and buy this book. It is complete love. It is empowerment. It is poetry. It is forgiveness and grace. And it's his journey. And I'm telling you, embrace your calling through music, poetry, and prose. Your daily guide to shine. Bum, ba-da-da. Kevin, I love your book. Welcome to The Next Room.
Thank you so much, Jane. I am grateful and honored to be here with you today.
Kevin, you and I have a couple things in common, and I just want to get right to it because you said something before I pushed record and I thought, oh, I wish I was recording. Your beloved mom just passed away recently, and I'm so very sorry for your loss. We have that in common, although my mom's been gone 13 years now. It doesn't seem to ever get easier. You just seem to be able to kind of live with it. So when I was reading about you, the thing that you and I have in common is you wrote your mom's obituary, and I had the great honor of writing my mom's eulogy. Talk to me about your mom. Let's just start there.
Christina Azelis Lamb, she was a joy who lived furiously with great passion. She's half Lithuanian. Both her parents came over from Lithuania just after World War II. Her older brother, Leonis, was born there. She was born just off of the boat in Brooklyn. Her father was a doctor, but they moved to Cleveland, and he got his medical degree again here. She studied fine arts and French at John Carroll University in Cleveland, and then a different fine arts institution also in Cleveland. She was a model. I only recently discovered this entire portfolio that she kept a secret to all of us. A 6 feet tall, blue-eyed, long blonde-haired Lithuanian model. She even did a Gatorade ad.
Wow.
And yeah. And to give you just an idea of the power and tenacity of my mother, about 6 years ago, she got diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis. Her mom and brother passed from the same thing, and she kept playing tennis wearing a harness with 2 oxygen tanks on it. And over the course of an hour and a half, 2-hour match, she would go through about 6 oxygen tanks. And
oh my gosh,
even at her advanced age of 70, where they often don't give transplants because it's, quite the investment, and they want them to be lived in. But because my mom was still playing tennis and was so excited for life, they deemed her worthy. And there was 9 people ahead of her on the list, but those lungs are too big for everyone but my mom. Lungs can go male or female, and all 6 foot of my mom, my mamita, as we say in Lithuanian, received the lungs. And if you wouldn't believe it, if you would believe it, this happened in 2019, in November of 2019, before a global respiratory disease kind of shut down life as we know it. And I make my living in the music and entertainment industry. I own a boutique booking agency and music production company. And that business model is very much assembled around gathering. And we couldn't really do that. So I sublet my place in Michigan and lived down with my folks in Hilton Head. And on May 15th, mom was cleared to perform physical activity for the first time. And myself, my dad, along with her 15 closest tennis friends, showed up to walk her, take her first steps on the tennis court, and hit her on the tennis ball. And I told my mom, any day you want to play tennis, I will come and hit the ball with you. And we played every day. And for the first time, my mother and I had something we shared that we were both good at. I had that with my father growing up, but I never had that with my mom. And we'd play with each other, we'd play against each other. And it was so cool to do something with my mom that she was really good at. And, as wild as it was, I'm super thankful that the pandemic afforded us that time that, I was able to be there. And we never knew she was going to go when she did, but once your mom gets new lungs, you kind of know it's only a matter of time. Most folks only get about 5 years. And the real wild thing of it all is she passed away with healthy lungs. On the day I arrived at Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, on December 15th, I learned she had been diagnosed with a very aggressive form of leukemia. And her sense of humor, she said, man, double lung transplant, aggressive form of leukemia. I must have been a real son of a in another lifetime. And that was my mom. What can we do?
Wow.
But make the most of it and laugh at it. And I said, well, if mom is facing it, what other option do I have than to be there for her? And uh, not really surprisingly, the last word she spoke to me, I was on a vineyard that my friends are opening in northern Michigan on the Leelanau Peninsula, which is a very beautiful land and space. And the last words she spoke me were a Beatles song, and she said it won't be long.
Mm. Woo. Okay. So the book, Your Daily Guide to Shine, you told me, I asked you, I said, okay, so when did this come out? When did you actually publish this? Tell me about the in spirit dream / conversation visitation you had with your beloved mom.
Absolutely. So just seconds after finishing her obituary, which I wrote in her living room while gazing at her watercolor paintings and pastel mixed media arts, just to really feel my mom. And I wrote her obituary, and just moments after, I got the email from Amazon KDP that my book was published to the world. And the first day after she passed, she visited me in a dream, and she said, hey, Kevin, how many books have you sold? And I said, hey, mom, why don't you guess? And she guessed 10. And at that time, I had already sold 30. So I took that as a pretty good sign. And she always knew how much writing meant to me and how much joy I had and how talented of an artist I was. But she also knew that I'm an empath who does a lot for others and very willingly gives it away. And she just wanted me to put some of that energy into myself and maybe not give it away so freely.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, you are a poet. I mean, this book is so beautiful. And I have all these little sticky notes here because I was sitting out on my veranda. So this one says love. So let me see here. It says, only love is powerful enough to ask that you heal. Only love will replace the space fear filled in your heart with hope. Only love will unburden the great weight you carry in tow. Isn't it time to let go? Okay. Unbelievable. So was this book like, did you feel like, was it coming to you over the course of the last couple of years? I mean, you are on the road a lot. You've got this you're in the industry where you're booking bands. You're good friends with a lot of different people. You have quotes from musicians. You ask questions of musicians throughout the book. When did it start turning into this, your daily guide to shine?
It's really interesting because, I published my first book, The Dying Romantic, about 10 years ago. And that was just something that was important to me to get out there. And that was writing from over the course of, probably 5 to 10 years. And then I got real busy with all of the things that now constitute my career today. And I wrote often, but really, your daily guide to shine, it was always operating under a different working title. And it was kind of a life philosophy for me. And that was just living on caffeine, dreams, and love. And I even had a music podcast called Caffeine, Dreams, and Love. And this past summer, into fall, I sensed it was time. And beautifully enough, I was at Bliss Fest Music Festival, which just happened this past weekend in northern Michigan. And May Early Wine has a song and there's a lyric, isn't it time? Isn't it time? And for me, it was, what are you waiting for? Let's go. And that day I was like, all right, let's start putting it together. And I had been assembling, pages and pages, but it was all of these different things written from all these different times, some of it poetry, some of it prose, some of it from, I've been interviewing bands for my blog for over a decade. And I was like, finally said to myself, you could get this book out by the end of the year, or you could have, I gave myself the goal to have a manuscript ready by the new year. And for the first time ever, I was editing myself. I was reading every day. I was reading other authors, and it was felt really great to be reading best-selling authors like Billy Chapada or Young Pueblo, and they helped me learn that my style of writing, inspirational, loving poetry, is really popular right now as our world ascends and heals, and as we're on this tipping point and have been for some time. And the funny thing about the title, I was on a plane to Atlantic City to work a country music festival with Country Nation called Tidal Wave. And I had an amazing conversation for about an hour with the gal next to me, which is pretty common in my life. And she does public speaking, and her son is in the movies in Hollywood. And she could tell I was really eager to share my title. And at the time, it was Just Living on Caffeine, Dreams, and Love. And she's like, well, I wouldn't read it. I don't know who your audience is. So on that day, I knew I had to come up with a different title. But like most things, title can be a later thing. And I just really started writing and etching it all together. And so probably between October and November, I wrote the last third of this book, and the other 2/3 of it were from, maybe as long ago as 2010, 2009, 2008. And I wasn't sure how it would all fit together with the music interviews and all the different pieces, but the more I sat with it, it just became so clear. And it felt really good to, from the cover to the names of chapters to the placement of everything, to have handpicked that. And there's an introduction that before you even get to the table of contents, it's a greeting of sorts. And there's a similar one as you exit the book. And those were written for the back of good signs. This is a good sign. We put 5 to 10,000 of those out in the world just to help people feel better. So before I had a book, I had a positive brand movement, and we just wanted to be able to help people feel better. And I saw what that did to people. Kids would come up to me and tell me that, hey, my best friend got the last line of that tattooed on him. I just thought you'd like to know. And now it feels really good to be able to put it all together. And this is my greatest work yet, and it's really opening the door to everything else. I had the book written before I enrolled in a self-publishing masterclass, because I have the tendency to rush through things because I'm very busy, and I often prioritize other people's well-beings as it's become my career. But enrolling in that masterclass helped me take the necessary steps to see this through and really give it my all. And all of my guides were really telling me that this book is going to change my life. It's going to help me let go of some things, and it's going to allow me to let in some things, and it's going to really help other people. And uh, it's really hard for me not to give it away. I travel a lot and people want to buy it, but I honestly believe the best thing that anyone can do is for me, and for themselves is read my book. And if someone likes it, I think they'll be moved to share it with another. And knowing that it can be out there doing some of my work in the world on my behalf, it saves my voice and some of my energy because as an energy source that a lot of folks lean on, I'm more and more mindful of how that takes a toll on me and can affect my well-being.
I say give it away. I mean, I understand as an independent author, obviously sales are a big thing, but if it feels good to you and you want to gift it to someone, do it. I did. I still do. If someone can't afford my book, I send it to them. I mean, I send out the digital version to anybody that wants it. Obviously, why do I care? It's digital. It's on my laptop. Just send it out. You said the word a couple times. You were listening to a song at Bliss Fest about letting go. And what's really crazy is one of my sticky notes is right there. It says, let go, trust, writing. So let's go to that page.
Nice.
I love this. I love this. I needed to hear this, right? Because doing what I do, there's, you have this trepidation sometimes and you have this fear and it just kind of comes in and it can kind of like, I don't know, scare you into not doing your life's work, right? And because you're so like, oh, what are people going to think? I love this. It says, do not be discouraged if you have neglected your calling, because this is me picking up the pieces and allowing myself to embrace my heart's desire, trusting that doing so will invite the love I seek into my life, let go of timelines, comparisons, and regrets. They will not help you carry you to your dreams. Amen, man. That is so good. I needed to hear that. That is so good.
Thank you.
That is
I must
great.
I must say it just means the world to like feel your enthusiasm and joy and passion, diving into the very, words that I poured all of that into. And like I still, read through my book and open it up to be like, all right, what do I need to hear? What is the universe telling me? Because like I acknowledge I'm a talented writer and I have gifts, but I think I'm able to hone that because I am open to receive. And I think the universe, I think source works through me. And as a conduit, it's important to check in and remind myself of the very things, because just because you heard it once and wrote it once, it doesn't mean you figured it out or that, I always have this philosophy, what was good yesterday will still be good tomorrow. And that's why I think it's important to revisit our art and our creations because we change over time and sometimes we forget the very reason we got into something. And, the intro of the book is kind of my arc and it describes a song from the Avett Brothers, who are one of my favorite bands from Concord, North Carolina. And they have a song, Head Full of Doubt, Road Full of Promise. And the lyric is, if you've been loved by someone, you're never rejected. Decide what to be and go be it. And that was what gave me permission to be a writer and refocus my life after baseball and be my North Star as I found myself becoming a sports writer and a sports talk radio show host and then a booking agent and then all of these things. I was like, wait a minute, Kevin, decide what to be and go be it. Yeah, these things are great and they're adjacent to your dream and they're fueling it and giving you content, but you have everything but the most important part, which is the story of how all this happened and what it means to you. And now that I have this one, I just really feel it pouring out of me. I've been writing like never before. And on a pretty tough day after my mom's passing, I I knew I'd been writing a lot in our final visits and final months, especially over Christmas. And I started going back and putting it together for my next book. And little did I know, I already have 80 pages, of probably what's going to be a 140-page book. And I wrote there was one particular thing that I started writing uh, while she was still with us in December, about making her chili and gladly taking her to her doctor visits. And on the day she transitioned that morning, I started making a chili, and I made it throughout the day, even through her passing, as her hand was in mine. And it was the best chili I ever made, with coffee in it and brown sugar. And my whole family ate it and enjoyed it. And while she didn't get to eat it, I like to think it was awaiting her on the other side. So I finished writing that night after, and it's a crazy thing to have something written while she was with us and then finish it off after. And I
Mm.
really think that, one, it's going to help me, it's going to help my family, but the only thing certain is transition. So why don't we offer people access into, ways to connect and let it in, and let go, and face it while we're still here. So we're a bit more equipped and ready once the plot shifts.
You are singing my song. Boy, so much of this resonates with me. It's really what I'm always trying to encourage people is, be here now. Enjoy what you have this moment. And even the ones that maybe don't feel so beautiful when they're happening, stubbing your toe is not, interesting. It hurts, but still there's an aliveness to it. It's like, I have a toe to stub kind of mentality. Um, Boy, when you were describing making that chili, I was with you in your kitchen and I could see your mother's hands through your hands. And you mentioned coffee and brown sugar in that chili. Kevin, I'm just going to say, I think that recipe, call it what you want, that recipe could quite possibly make it into book number 2. I
I
mean,
like that. I like that,
I
along with the
love the whole
poem.
story. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
the entire story. I just think it's
yeah.
just so beautiful. And I'm just getting goosebumps about your mom. Wow. I love it. Okay, so that brings me to my other sticky note, gratitude. Okay, huge. I love what you wrote here. You said, our heartbeat is our home. Fill your home with people, activities, and experiences which lift you, compelling your gratitude for every breath you breathe. Find those with kind, wide eyes to harmonize your song. Be the reason a friend learns to sing their own. Woo! Okay, Kevin, let's talk gratitude. Where did this young soul, I don't know how old you are, you look like you're about, you could be my son. That's how old you look to me. My children are 28 and 26, soon to be 27. Where did you get this wisdom? Have you always been like this, or has this just been like, did you come on the planet, this little grateful kid who's not so little?
It was it's been pretty steady. I like to, you know, first and foremost say, if every soul chooses its parents, I chose wisely, and my parents always supported the three of us with immense love, and at a young age let us pursue our dreams. And uh, so what's different about me is I was already on a career track at age 8. I was a baseball player, and I was on the cover of the Detroit Free Press as an 8-year-old, named the Randy Johnson of 8-year-olds for having a 44-mile-an-hour fastball. And, I was extremely gifted, and work ethic, it was, for me, it just, passion and gifts, it just went hand in hand, that they needed to be watered. And at a young age, even like, I was I was the kid in elementary school who read the stories he wrote aloud, and everyone would laugh, and the teacher would get upset at me because they knew I had my way with words in the class, and I was also a rebel, even though I had good grades. You know, I pushed boundaries and limits because I was able to, and I didn't exactly accept the system laid before me. And then in middle school, I remember our language arts teacher asked us to write a poem, and this was in my first book, and it's the only one I've memorized. I often botch it, but you speak and speak of nothing much, although you have nothing better to do. I ask you why you speak this way, you mutter with a little reply. For what you say is nothing much, is something very much to me. As you stare at my subtle face, I am a man of different race. But the only real difference between you and me is the very much that you can't see, but is everything to me.
Mm.
And I don't know where it came from, but my friends didn't like me when that was day one in the poetry world. But but honestly, I didn't really know what to make of having these gifts, and I rationalized a lot of things away because I'd write a poem for a girl I had a crush on, and she's like, Evan, I don't know what to do with this. And so I kind of rationalized away love, romantic love at a young age, and just poured myself into baseball. And I remember I'd sit in the shower and saying, like, Kevin, you have a gift that many don't have. You should just be thankful and grateful for that. It's okay if these other things aren't working out right now. And I didn't even have that right now mentality then because I was young and there wasn't really a guide for that. But later in life, it started coming to me, and baseball not working out, but giving me the foundation I had, the work ethic, the connectivity, you know, I was touring as an 8 year old, traveling, staying in hotels every weekend, missing school, missing dances. It got me ready. And eventually, as I let go of baseball and let in writing and music and poetry, I was really thankful because the world wouldn't have cared what I had to say as $1 million professional athlete. They would say, I don't understand struggle and sacrifice. And no one's going to say that to a writer because I'm 38 and I came up in a time where before social media, where people didn't appreciate content, they thought writers were a joke. And for me, after decide what to be and go be it, I said, well, what is it? What are you best at writing? What does it take to be a writer? Everything, hustling. I started just supporting other people's dreams. I was a serial entrepreneur. I'd like see someone with an idea that I believed in, and I'd build them a website so they could ride a bike to California to raise $40,000 for St. Jude. I just started being this catalyst and supporting other people's ideas, and you know, that led me into freelancing for a sports publication that was monthly distributed at CVS's. And then I became the editor. And then I co-hosted a sports talk radio show. And I hosted my own Shaggy Lamb and the Fam. And at that time, Good Sign came into my life. I didn't create this. It kind of like found me to be a steward of sorts and focus me. Because my first book, it's really good writing, but I was a little more angry. And I've learned as I've matured that that's not the way to achieve change or to reach people. You have to meet them where they're at. And the Good Sign helped me do that. It helped hold me accountable. And when you're walking around talking to thousands of people, constantly being like, why is that a good sign? Like, I had to be better than most. And I had to, you know, I had to carry myself in a certain way. And now it's just, you know, eventually I let go of the Good Sign and it became this is a good sound. And now it's another transition in my life where music's still a beating heart, and I'm going to still work with some of the artists I work with. But you know, I want to publish a book of the year. I want to speak in schools. I want to work with the youth. I want to be more active in that. It's just, you know, another festival is just another festival. I kind of have a who cares mentality. Being able to connect with people and help them find their dreams, and you know, for all the people that are disenfranchised and are broken, beaten down by a tough world, or no one ever watered their dreams and no one ever gave them permission to believe, like we can do that for each other. And the artist I've been managing for about 5 years now, Dixon's Violin, we're perpetually on the human kindness tour, and he's giving people permission to do the impossible. And we did a show in the park in West Michigan yesterday for 150 people, and he walked away from a very successful career in technology, but he went to his first Burning Man and discovered all these people living in a heart-centered place, and he knew he wasn't one of them, and he wanted to be. And Then he wrote 10,000 lines of code because he's a geek like that. So he could play his 5 string electric violin through a looping system on his laptop. And now he's done 5 TED Talks. We do 100+ shows a year. He's toured as far away as South Africa. And when I tour with him, I hype man him, I introduce him, and we get to sell my books on the merch table. And it's just like, I know no matter where I go, him and I's paths are supposed to be together. And he's one of the first person in my lives who's ever told me and consistently tells me, especially with everything going on recently with my mom, to honor my energy.
Mm, that's good. Honor your energy. When you were talking about working with children and helping people to realize potential and to go for their dreams, I wrote down, because I take notes the whole time. This is me.
I love
I wrote down, you will.
it.
No, I saw it. I
Yeah,
see
yeah.
you in classrooms. I see you on a stage. I see you helping. Um, you mentioned poetry a lot. And of course, sticky note, poetry, page 37. The love in you as magnanimous, your patience poetic, your joy prophetic, your consistency alphabetic, to be foundational and sequential, building but never breaking, generous, yet so rarely taking. Love is in the making, relieving, seeing, and believing. Come on. This is so good. This is so good. Oh, and we haven't even scratched the surface of my other sticky notes.
This is
You know
great.
what? You know what's
Thank you.
interesting? It's so crazy. It's almost like I showed you ahead of time what the buzzwords were going to be with my notes, because as you're talking, I'm like, oh, well, let go. And then we talked about love. And then,
Yeah,
then we got to gratitude. And then we got to poetry. So we'll see if
yeah.
you can come up with the next one. And I did not tell
Okay.
Kevin any of this.
That's great.
Um,
That's beautiful.
so Kevin Allen Lamb is my guest. His book is Your Daily Guide to Shine, for you YouTube people. It's beautiful. Gratitude for every breath. The back is fabulous. Beautiful poetry. Wow. Where do we go from here? The show started off, when I first started doing it, it was about death, every facet: death, dying, grief, green burial, wills and trusts. But it has slowly morphed into something so much bigger. I had a guest on last week, and we celebrate birth, right? Oh, new baby, gender reveal, all this, there's presents and everybody's so happy because babies are so
Yeah.
joyful. And then we leave the planet and it's always like, wah, wah. And what I would like to do is switch that focus to a celebration,
Yeah.
celebration of that life well lived, like you did with your mom, with that amazing chili recipe. Um, uh, you know, I've got two things circled here. This is a good sign. I want you to know that our mutual friend, Nancy, who introduced you to me, she sent me one of those years ago. And I have this great spot outside on my veranda, and it's my favorite room that's not in the house, right? I spend a lot of time out there in meditation and my reading and my writing and just chilling with my tomatoes and basil and hummingbirds. And it's right on my fence. And every time I take a little selfie to send to my sister or my friend, it's right over my shoulder. I make sure that this is a good sign is there. I love that sign. And it's getting pretty weathered, so I'm going to have to hit you up. I need a new one, I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
I'd be happy. I can mail you a big one, the 18 by 18. Yeah, we'll pick it up. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do it. Okay, so the thing that I want to talk to you about is dance parties. You mentioned,
Nice.
yes. What is the dance party all about? So we're going to circle back to your
Yeah.
beautiful mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So my mom had two type of mornings. If she had tennis, she'd be listening to Paul Simon. There's a playlist that would usually start with "You Can Call Me Al," and
Okay, wait a minute. Holy crap. This is so good. We could get my husband out here to confirm this. Do you know that that is the very first song I picked this morning to play? Because what I do is I pick a song and then I have Siri take it from there and just build me a playlist. And that was
Wow.
my song this morning. Oh,
Wow.
your mom is
Wow.
here. Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And,
Go back to your
and, and
story.
it's and it's even wilder that my aunt Ginger, her brother is Jamie Haddad, who plays percussion in Paul Simon,
Mm.
and so you have the tennis mornings, and then where she has to get up and get going, and you have non-tennis mornings where it's just chill, and those would be Simon and Garfunkel. But music's always really been a big part of us. Like I remember when I first got down in for Easter of 2020, and everyone's still social distancing. I had just got down to Hilton Head, and we had Easter dinner together at the beach in Hilton Head. My folks have a rental property there, and so we went somewhere where we could be outside and socially distant and eat. And it's a beautiful plan until there is some threatening rain and some, it wasn't on the forecast, but you're on the ocean and high pressure, low pressure, it comes and it goes. And if it rained, we wouldn't be able to have our meal. We wouldn't be together. We'd have to go to our separate ways. And it came near us, it sprinkled on us for moments, but then it cleared out. And, following eating, like all of a sudden everything was right in the world. I was with my parents. We were standing up on the boardwalk and we were dancing. And it was just like so much of what I had been carrying and all of us had been carrying in the world I'd been carrying, just it got let go. And we were together and it was beautiful and simple again. And that was something I was so thankful to experience during the pandemic. And I kept experiencing it. We started doing concerts again in Michigan in backyards and parks and urban farms and gardens. But with inevitably winter coming, we're like, what do we do then? So we went down to Florida and we did 55 shows between November of 2020 and April of 21. And Hilton Head to Florida, well, if you're going to North Florida to Hilton Head, that's only like 3, 4 hours. Well, if you're going to Tampa, St. Pete, that's about 7. So I would do, shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, drive back up to Hilton Head, do 3, 4 days with my parents. And that was my life for a long time. And it was for the first time mom and I would sit on the couch and I'd just be making all my calls, doing it on speakerphone. And it was the first time she actually understood what I was doing because she listened and she's like, Kevin, she's like, you're just like me. This is like me with the condo, calling people and making deals. And where I was just like, yeah, mom, it's the same thing. Why do you think I got into it? And it felt so good as someone who's kind of perpetually misunderstood because I have a unique set of skills, passions, and I very much walked my own line. Like mom knew me, mom resonated with it. And they started getting on board. And we even did a Dixon's violin show on the island. And they were our local promoters, inviting all their friends at the club. And on Monday, we got 60 people to come out, and it was at sunset, right on the ocean. And my mom was in her hippie skirt and just wiggling around, dancing, and not a care in the world. And music was always that thing with us. And especially towards the end, I'd start the day, I'd come in, mom would be up having coffee, I'd come into the kitchen and hug her, and we'd just start boogieing, just simple and movement. And no matter what was going on and the weight my mom was carrying, she was smiling and dancing. I knew she was doing pretty all right. And it's something we always shared and I'll always keep with me. And it's tough, of course, losing mom, but the other side comes to us most in music and nature, and that's where I live. That's overwhelming at times, but thankfully I'm used to surges of energy and tears running down my face as a pretty regular thing, and that's where I like to write my best material from. So this is just now attributing thunderstorms and rain to my mom, and when I really needed to, like finally getting back after all the stuff and services and busy, busy, busy. I got like 3 days of storms and you can't see it, but I'm looking out my window at Oxford Lake and I can lay in my bed and see the storms come in and open my windows and see these cotton candy sunsets. And my mom's eulogy, which, my mom's obituary, and then I wrote also her eulogy and gave it, talks about cotton candy sunsets. And now every time I see it, it's just another reminder of mom. And I wrote something called A Mother's Thunder. I don't know if you could bear with me with a sec. If I could read you A
Oh,
Mother's
please
Thunder.
do. Oh, are you kidding? I
Sweet.
was going to ask you to do some reading.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
cool,
please.
cool, cool. Yeah, my pleasure. It might just take me one sec, but
That's
I
okay.
got it.
You know,
Cool.
what's interesting is I have another note here. I know this may sound weird, but would you please send me your mother's obituary?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. I was even
thank you.
considering reading it.
Oh, you can, please do.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I'd
love
actually rather I'd
yeah,
rather read the her tribute, because that's it
eulogy.
has,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
eulogy has the
beautiful.
uh
Yeah, that
yeah,
would
here
be
we go.
great. I would love
Yeah.
that. It's
Okay,
such an
yeah.
honor to do that for our loved ones. It really is. When my dad, I'm the baby of six, and after mom, transitioned, we had to fly back from San Diego to Michigan. Everybody else lives there, and right before I left, my sister called and said, Dad wants to know if you want to do mom's eulogy. And I have all these very intelligent older siblings, and I jumped at the chance. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, really? I'm going to box out my sister Lynn, who is brilliant and eloquent and in
Yeah.
politics. I mean, this woman was born on a stage. And then I have
Wow.
two sisters that have masters in the teaching from Michigan State, and so I have all these really super smart
Yeah.
people that just bowed down and said, no, you do it. And I was like, right on. So
Wow. So
please.
another synchronicity. I'm the baby, older brother, older sister, older brother's library science professor at the University of Southeastern Alaska, got a second master's in creative writing poetry. My sister's, teacher in Connecticut. Like, but it wasn't even a question. It was just like, I got this. And they're like,
Right,
okay,
right.
yeah,
Good. I love
all
that.
right.
Okay, so you're gonna read A Mother's Thunder, was it?
No, I'm gonna just skip to the celebration of
Okay.
life, the eulogy.
The floor is yours.
It may have taken us the first half of our lives to truly know it, but we couldn't have asked for a better mamita. There's very little I could say or tell you about Christina Urata Lamb that you wouldn't believe, because she's pretty unbelievable. Just ask her opponents on the tennis court who watched in disbelief as she changed her oxygen tanks for the third time during a match, as she gracefully carried the weight of the world on her shoulders with a smile, because that's what our mom did. I didn't always know smiling was a superpower, but she continues to help teach me that, especially on the days when it's hard. Today is one of those days. But her contagious laugh, magnanimous smile, and fierce love carry on in the glowing faces, crying eyes, and joy of each and every person in this room. When mom was in her element, lost in a swirl of watercolors, Julio Iglesias, and mambo music, she lifted the world around her. She lifted those she loved, while helping each of us better understand true joy, giving us permission to follow our hearts to Juneau, Alaska, Fairfield, Connecticut, and Oxford, Michigan, knowing we would always be welcome home in our second home on Hilton Head. Mom was dealt a tough hand, but her and our father Terry walked that line together, reminding each of us of the strength flowing through our family's veins and what it means to love someone. Christina was an award winning artist and longstanding member of the Lawrence Street Gallery in Michigan. Her watercolor, pastel, and mixed media works of art decorate municipal buildings, schools, her family's and friends' homes. Similar to the joy and inspiration she infused into each of her encounters, her artwork tells a story of a life lived with intense passion, grace, and beauty. Her magnificent spirit carries on in the wildflowers, willow trees, and the warmth of a blaze. Christina was an investment savvy property manager, homemaker, model, and force to be reckoned with at the net on the tennis court. She loved music, dancing, her grandchildren, long walks on the beach, and cotton candy sunsets.
You're lucky I have my tissues in the studio. Wow, that's beautiful. Oh, I like your mom a lot. Do you communicate with her now?
Dreams. She visits me in dreams. Oddly enough, 2 nights ago, I was still up on the peninsula, and
we were at the home I grew up as a child, and my cousin was visiting me, and I didn't see her, but her bedroom was closed, and I knew she was in there. The light was on. I sensed my mom, and it was as if in the dream my father had passed and my mom had remained. And I was like, well, of course I'm going to live at home, even though I have this nice house and a lake here in Oxford. I was like, I'm going to be with my mom. And that was like all it was, but it was peaceful. And that's like how a lot of the last several years were. It was no matter how busy I am and multitudes of responsibilities I have going on and careers I'm managing, I was like, oh, I'm going to be there. And, I'd spend 2 months out of every year of the last 5 there. And while at times it got really tough for me, I felt like my siblings, who both have husbands and wives and 2 boys, 2 girls, respectively, I thought they had it easier because they were going through it with their families, but me, single, no children, I felt like I was navigating it alone. But once it all went down and we were there and I saw it more acutely and let it breathe, I realized they hadn't even begun their grieving journey. They hadn't let it in. Whereas I had begun my journey some time ago, and I was able to do everything I did when it came to the time because I had begun facing it. I had let it in, and that was that was beautiful. It was very like, it was just yet again another reminder of my gifts and what my path is supposed to be here. And I couldn't have asked for it to have gone any other way. Nothing was left unsaid. We were there together. We were happy, and she knew I could handle it. She knew I had been handling it the whole time. And so the next book is called Love is in the Details, and it's very much about mom and a lot of our time together. And now it's just it's an opportunity to find the ones we've loved and have transitioned in everything in the world that we gaze to with awe and wonder. It's seeing that human, that spirit, and all things beautiful. And I think that helps folks understand whether that concept for them is God or the universe or source, that it really is all just a confusion of words, and it's the same thing, the same beautiful oddity, and that we came from a place, that we return to a place, and it's a journey that we only know the beginning of.
Okay. All right. Here's what I'm getting. And your mom is telling me that this is really important. When you're ready to launch Love is in the Details, I want you to come back on. Come on the week before, come on right when it's launched, whatever, just so that we can put it out there to the Next Room audience, because they're going to embrace this. Your Daily Guide to Shine, Kevin Allen Lamb. I love this book. I think you are just an incredible human being. I'm so grateful that Nancy finally connected the two of us together. Just a couple more sticky notes if you have a minute.
No, this is great. Yeah. You're my only place to be, and I'm thankful to be here.
Well, I love this. So we can take it up to the limit. So fall in love, or it says fall in line with purpose. So this whole paragraph, page 51, is highlighted, as you can see. So I'll just read. It says, fall in line with your purpose, to fall in love with your path, walk in the direction you're called, enjoy the stroll, embrace divinity, accept that it's meaningful and necessary, hone and own your magic. And it goes on from there. I love it. It's just beautiful. Tango with grace. So much fun. This book is just beautiful. What is next for you? I mean, obviously, we know that Love is in the Details is on the way. And it sounds to me like there's going to be a chili recipe in there too.
Yeah.
What is
I
it
still have to, I have to start doing more. I think it's very important that people who want to read me can kind of read it in my voice and tone. So I have to make an audio book of Your Daily Guide to Shine that I'm going to do myself. I'm even going to go back and do an audio book of my first book, The Dying Romantic, because I think now with this recent one, it's going to give it kind of a chance that it never had, because I was too busy when I was younger to put the time and energy into
Yeah.
marketing it and sharing it and even, doing anything with it. And something that my mom was really excited that I was working on, spirit or turtles have been the only pet I've ever had, the only animal, as someone who's traveling around the country playing baseball at 8 and had a brother and sister who are doing the same, and parents were both very busy who both worked. That turtles, reptiles were the only pets I was allowed to have. And slow and steady has become a life philosophy of mine. And Nancy Ferris, who introduced us, who you mentioned earlier, we went to an intro to shamanism workshop years ago in Ann Arbor. And while we were journeying, I was kind of connected to a turtle. And now turtles show up in my life a lot. I work at Tortuga Music Festival in Fort Lauderdale. So I started writing a children's book about a magical turtle with magical friends. Only Speedy the turtle doesn't know that he's magical. So he writes about his magical friends, and what makes them magical is how they benefit the environment. And it also talks about their relationship with humans. And at the end of each description, he writes a song about them. And uh, after he does this with a series of characters, the first one, Santiago the seagull, and then there's Babs the beaver, Helga the honeybee, and they're going to give Speedy a banjo and say, Speedy, this is your superpower. You make us feel great. Remind us of all the wonderful things we do. And then they're going to become a traveling band. And I'd even like to bring that to schools and music festivals and have my different friends be the different musical characters. And my mom got really excited about that. And I haven't picked that one up in a long time because I'm just trying to compartmentalize and honor, a project at a time. But that's going to kind of just be running adjacent to it. And I think I can just do a whole series of children's books. I'd already written one for my niece. I was visiting her in Connecticut over Thanksgiving, and I love cheesy Christmas movies. I love Christmas. It's the time of year where people act like I do all the time. I love Christmas carols, and I'm about
Too.
it. I'm enthusiastic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm joyful. I'm festive, and it's beautiful. The spirit of giving, of believing in miracles, of little things making a big difference. And I was like, you know what? I can write this. Like, this is bad writing. So I just wrote a story called I think Unlocking the Secret of Christmas or something like that. And she was the main character, and she was a princess, and she loved Christmas, but she got sad each year as the months would pass by or days would pass by, and the Christmas spirit would seemingly disappear. So she left the kingdom the first time to retrace the true origin of the Christmas spirit, and it was revealed to her in 3 different keys. And one of those keys was an elderly fella who was going to be alone for his first Christmas because his family was visiting, Alaska, and he didn't feel comfortable flying. And she invited him to their house for Christmas, and that was kind of like the first key that it's shared, it's other people, it's his union. And then she didn't really plan that well. And at night she got lost in the woods, and it was getting cold and didn't have a place to sleep. And she heard voices in a distance and music, and there was a family around a fire singing, and they welcomed her in and clothed her and fed her, and she stayed the night. And that was kind of the second key, where it's just have faith, and grace can be afforded. And the last one, she came by a river, and a young boy had fallen in the river, and she just fearlessly jumped in. Fallon's my niece's name, and jumped in and saved the boy. And then the mom was so thankful, and she, they spent the night together. And the next day she went home for Christmas, and I came home. I wrote it in a day and a half, and came home, and I made it just out of kind of scrap, photos on the internet. I printed it out, and I gave it to her, and she loved it. And I submitted it for publication, and it got approved. But I had asked my mom to do the illustrations, but she didn't really do that type of artwork, and she really didn't even have any energy. And she kind of let go of the painter side of her a long time ago. But I never did anything with it, and it's still pretty good and juicy. And I love kids, and I was a substitute teacher. I was a teacher. I was Mr. Kevin. I get to be a gym teacher. while the gym teacher was having a baby. And after I ran through the curriculum, pretty much played dodgeball every day, and just give them the choice, like, hey kids, you want to play basketball today or dodgeball? They go, dodgeball! And I just broke all the rules. I just let them be as wild and crazy as they want, because it was a Montessori school and they were already like being so responsible and making so many decisions. And like, I knew I needed a gym to get energy out. So I would play dodgeball with them. I would play like me versus the entire class. This one day, this kid, they finally won because I threw the ball and he caught it and he was a legend. I broke a little girl's finger, and her dad learned about it as she was telling him how much she loved gym class with Mr. Kevin. And other girls would be like, Mr. Kevin, you said you were going to show us mercy. And it was great. And it kind of created a lot of problems in the school, because eventually the gym teacher was coming back. And there's, of course, like a Facebook group that everyone's in. And parents would just be sharing, like, my kids have just loved gym so much with Mr. Kevin. And then other parents would be like, oh, our kids love, it just becomes a pissing contest. And, but it was cool. And I was really thankful for the time I got to, be Mr. Kevin and have my pre-primary minions up to the middle schoolers. And I loved it. I was a little bored. I wasn't really challenged, but I know there's that part of me that I want to continue to honor and feed. And I kind of do it everywhere I go. It's kind of like with dogs. Everyone's just like, oh man, you must have some dogs at home. I was like, no, I've never been able to have a dog. So I pet everyone like it's mine. Just like children, it's like the Tao. Like, children and dogs are all around us at all time. You don't have to have one to engage in them. And honestly, it's a little easier to enjoy the sweet love of them without having to take care of them. So it's kind of just, you get it in the world where you can. And
Okay. Well, we need a link for the Dying Romantic, because we're going to breathe some new life into that, because you're right. You can go back and embrace that with this pivot that you're having. Your Daily Guide to Shine, the book is out now. He's going to be putting out Love is in the Details and Speedy the Turtle. I just think that you need to do exactly what you're doing. And I'm really, really proud of you. And thank you for sharing your story with me. I know it's not always easy to talk about someone you love so deeply having a transition so soon like you have. But you've done it with a lot of love and grace. And I think Christina she's right there with you anyway. She's never left your side for 1 second. So she's with you. It's just in a different form. Any final thoughts? Because we are reaching the end of the Next Room show today.
Just, thank you. And not to subnote a pretty beautiful and in-depth book, but, your joy is your light. Walk in the direction of your joy to find where you're supposed to be in the world. And there's a good chance that your joy comes with a gift, and that gift will help lift others and help, them along. And it's just something we can all do for each other. And, I'm honored to be on this path with you. And it's a great way to welcome me back home for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful. I love my beloved state of Michigan. Thank you so much for joining me, Kevin Allen Lamb, your Daily Guide to Shine. Do yourself a favor. All the links are below. You can just find Kevin. You can find everything you need to know. He's all over social media and has quite a big presence. No pun intended with your height. You are a very tall lad. So thank you so much. And we can put a link for Dixon's violin as well. Anything that you would like me to include on the show page just after we're done recording today, just send me everything. I'll include it all. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to The Next Room. It has been a complete joy to have Kevin on the show today. And as you can hear, this young man has so many great gifts. And I think the most beloved gift that he's been given is one of kindness, and to share his kindness everywhere he goes. So thanks again to Kevin for coming on the show. This is The Next Room. Oh, I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks, going to the Congo to be in service. So when I come back, I hope to have all kinds of fun little clips. I'm taking my travel microphone with me, and I'm really hoping to get some really good, juicy, meaty love from the people and hope about them and what they're going through in the Congo. So thanks so much for being here. It's been a joy today.